Hey guys, this is my full Beginner Mage guide to Elite Dungeons 3 for anyone who is looking to either learn or get better at Elite Dungeons 3. Hope you guys all enjoy the video. On screen right now you will see the requirements and useful items to have in this dungeon. The requirements, I would recommend you use tier 80 armor and tier 90 weapons, as well as having at least the basic overloads. For the useful items, the Salve Amulet, Undead Slayer ability codex, and the Undead Slayer perk all are very useful for this dungeon for increasing your damage against the undead enemies, as there are quite a few in the dungeon. Limitless for sunshine rotations, Bladed Dive, and the mobile perk, just to get around the dungeon quickly by surging and bladed diving as often as possible. Vulnerability bombs for the bosses to give you an increased 10% damage. And the Scare Tactics ability codex, you can get this on the GE for about 300k, and what that does is it gives you a new set of stunning abilities for mage and range, which also push back your targets, which is useful for Taraket, the second boss in the dungeon. Damage boosting auras are also useful. I won't be using them in this guide, but if you do want to increase your damage, you can use auras such as Maniacal, Dark Magic, and Majorat if you're able to get your hands on that one as well. Curse of the Blackstone Quest is also very useful, as it provides a 10% damage reduction inside all Elite Dungeons, Elite Dungeons 3 of course being one of them. On screen right now is the inventory and gear setup I would recommend for this dungeon. For your gear, you're going to want tier 80 armor and a tier 90 weapon. I'm going to be using Elite Tectonics just because I don't have any tier 80 armor, and I will be using a Staff of Sliske just because I don't own a Noxious Staff. You'll be able to do this dungeon just fine in Virtus and a Noxious Staff, so if that's all you have, then bring that. For your pocket slot item, a Skirmisher of the Elements for an increased 5% magic damage when activated, which is useful for the bosses in the dungeon. If you're maxed, I would recommend using a Kiln Cape, as your max cape perks will carry over. Otherwise, just use a Combatants or Defense Cape so that you can bring your Sign of Life with you. Since this is a beginner guide, I won't be using fully maxed gear, so for your amulet, just bring a Amulet of Souls or a Essence of Finality if you have one. For your rune pouch, just bring runes for Blood Barrage, as that's the spell I would recommend you use for this dungeon. For your glove slot, Cinderbane gloves for increased poison procs and poison damage, and then Blast Fusion boots for decreased detonate time, which is very useful for clearing out the trash mobs. For your ring slot, either an Asylum Surgeon's ring if you're confident running this dungeon, otherwise bring a Ring of Death to decrease your death costs if you do happen to die. A Planted Feet switch for increased sunshine duration, a shield switch for defensive abilities, Ring of Vigor to save 10% when using ultimate abilities, and a Luck of the Dwarves for getting a little bit of extra loot during the dungeon. A Bladed Dive switch with mobile on one of the weapons so that you can surge and bladed dive every 10 seconds. A Gothic Staff for the spec, and a Salve Amulet for the undead enemies in the dungeon. For your additional potions, you're going to want a Weapon Poison, a Overload, Prayer Renewal, and Adrenaline Potion, and then a couple prayer potions, vulnerability bombs, and a power burst of acceleration. This one is not necessary, but it does speed you getting around the dungeon a little bit faster. As for the rest, just fill it up with food. I'm going to be using Saradome and Brews and Blue Blubber Jellyfish. Whatever food you want to use, just bring your food of choice, and that is it for the gear setup. As for your summoning familiar, just use a Ripper Demon with or without scrolls. And if you're having trouble during this dungeon, you can switch over to a Pack Yak if you want to bring some extra food. Getting into the dungeon, you just want to pot up and put your prayers on, and then surge down towards the first set of enemies. During the dungeon clear, you want to make sure you're utilizing your area of effect abilities as much as possible. So that would be your Corruption Blast, your Dragon Breath, your Chain, and Detonate. You can also use Tsunami, which is an ultimate ability at certain points of the dungeon, preferably for larger groups of enemies. Larger and higher HP groups of enemies. So just stand, you want to stand next to the ranged enemies so that the melee enemies come towards you. So that's what you'll see me doing throughout most of the dungeon. So up here with these scouts, they are range, and then the other crabs are melee. So stand close to the range enemies and then let the melee ones come towards you so that you can attack all of the enemies at the same time. Once you finish off all those crabs, head over to the 2 zealots. You just need to kill these 2 to open the gate. Once you kill these 2 zealots, you're going to want to step behind the left rock past this barrier. Equip your bladed dive switch and then step diagonally towards the wall and surge through it. And then bladed dive towards the zealots. Once the zealots aggroed, step back until they are lined up with the scouts, and that way you can use your area of effect abilities on all of the enemies. Once you get down to these zombies, equip your salve amulet, as they are undead enemies, so you'll get increased damage for using a salve amulet against them. And you're just going to want to let them group up on you and then use your AoE abilities. Yeah, I'm going to use another tsunami. And for anyone who doesn't know, for each crit you get with the tsunami and for the next 30 seconds any crits you get will generate 10% adrenaline. Just continue clearing out the zombies. Once these zombies are dead, equip your Amulet of Souls again, as there are no more undead enemies until after the boss fight. To open the boss room, you just need to kill the 2 zealots, although I would recommend getting rid of all surrounding enemies so that they don't follow you into the boss room and annoy you during the boss fight. Also, for the boss fight, I would recommend activating the Dark Form Prayer. It will use quite a few more prayer points, but what it does is it gives a chance for your ancient spells to activate, that being your Blood Barrage, just while using normal abilities. So it can activate inside your Sunshine and just by itself for a little bit of extra damage and extra healing. What you're going to want to do for this boss fight is once you reach halfway down the arena, surge down, use a Corruption Blast, and then put your Planted Feet and Ring of Vigor on, and Sunshine. Use a Sonic Wave Dragon Breath into a Wild Magic, and then another Sonic Wave. Make sure, of course, you've drunk your Adrenaline Potion. He's going to do one basic attack after the Acid attack, and then he's going to swipe from one side to the other. Whichever side he chooses, just make sure you move over. The reason we Sunshine in the middle is so that you're still in your Sunshine when he's doing this attack here. If you'd like to follow my ability rotation, there is an ability tracker down on the above my inventory. Once he's done the first set of swipe attacks, he's going to do 2 basic attacks, and then he's going to swipe again. So here he's gone from left to right, and then he's going to go back from right to left. Now that he's done his 2 swipe attacks, he's going to do 2 more basics, and then he's going to switch sides on the arena. I would recommend using your G-Staff against this enemy because his defense is quite high, and G-Staff will lower his defense, allowing you to hit more often. Once you swap sides, you want to build your adrenaline up and Sunshine in the middle of the arena, and then step aside for the next acid attack. Since I won't be using Limitless in this guide, I'm just going to build up my adrenaline to 50% and then drop my thresholds. Once he's done with the acid attack, he's going to do 1 basic, and then he's going to do his swipe attack again. At this point, you just want to continue DPSing the boss. Again, after he's done with his first swipe attack, it's going to be 2 basic attacks, followed by another swipe attack. After the second swipe, boss should be pretty close to dead, so just finish him off. And if you're unable to finish him off here, he's just going to swap sides, and you just have to repeat the fight. Once you're done with the boss fight, turn your Dark Form Prayer off. If you want, you can leave it on throughout the dungeon, but it does take quite a few more prayer points. You might need an extra prayer potion. This is where I'd use my power burst of acceleration just to speed across the dungeon with your bladed dive and your surge. Head over down to the zealot and the crabs. You don't need to kill any of the bigger crabs that we passed while surging. Just finish off these ones near the gate, and then we're going to go through a set of undead enemies, so put your salve amulet back on. Once you kill all the zombies, just surge all the way down to this jump spot. You can keep your salve amulet on until we get to the next area, so you can, because there are quite a few undead enemies for the next part of the dungeon. Just keep utilizing your detonate and your dragon breath and corruption blast as much as possible, as well as chain and tsunami where applicable. Once you kill those 3 enemies, you want to surge down and kill a necromancer. There's one on the right and one on the left, so you can just pick which side you prefer. Kill one of the necromancers and then move over to these armored zombies, and you just need to kill these 3 by the door. Once those 3 zombies are dead, the door will be open and you can walk through there. Put your soul's amulet back on, as there are no more undead enemies for a little bit. You need to kill the necromancer guarding each door, so just use some single target spells like Asphyxiate and Wild Magic. Walk into the room and activate the artifact, and then head over to the opposite side and kill the necromancer on that side. Activate the artifact and then place your range prayer on for the bridge. What you want to do is, as you enter the bridge, devotion and then surge across. And then if you stand next to the necromancer where I am now, only one of the sea horrors will be able to attack you. At this point you just want to keep an eye on your HP while using all your area of effect abilities. If you really want to, you can reflect revenge while going down the bridge, if you know how to, if you have like a defender, and even if you have a kite shield, it could be very useful, but devotion is of course the safer option. Once you're off the bridge, as you approach these enemies, I'd recommend being above 4000 HP, or have melee prey on. Don't straight away put your soul split on, as they can hit quite high. But once you're safe, just put your soul split on and start dealing some damage. For this spot here, if you face towards the stairs and then bladed dive surge through, you can do what I just did there. Clear out the skeletons and the necromancers in this room, and then the boss fight room will be open. Either tally out or just bank. As you head down to Tarakit, make sure you have your salve amulet on. You're going to start the fight with Mage Prayer on, and of course activate Dark Form as well for a little bit of extra damage. You're going to want to walk up to Tarakit with a Combust, and then escape backwards. Then use your Sunshine and step 2 steps back, and then go back into Tarakit with a Sonic Wave. Make sure you place your Vulnerability Bomb, and go through your Sunshine rotation with Wild Magic and Asphyxiate. The reason we escaped is so that when the rift spawns, it spawns under him and we don't have to get off Tarakit. Just use a Corruption Blast and a Dragon Breath, charge your Detonate, and just keep using your AoE abilities as well as your single target abilities, and eventually the portal will die, as well as Tarakit. When he says let death take you, he's going to put a Death Swiftness up, switch to Range Prayer, and just continue DPSing. Before Tarakit hits 200,000 HP, you want to walk to the east of the arena like this, and then use a Shock or Horror ability to push him over to the west side of the arena. Finish off the rift if it's not already dead, and just get rid of some skellies if you want to as well. When the Corpse Carrier spawns, you want to throw a Vulnerability Bomb and use a Combust, and then just step back towards Tarakit so that the Corpse Carrier and Tarakit are on top of each other. Build your adrenaline and get another Sunshine off, and here you just want to focus Tarakit while prioritizing your area of effect abilities such as Dragon Breath, Corruption Blast, and Detonate, as well as Chain. And the reason we've stacked the Corpse Carrier and Tower Kit on top of each other is so that we can kill them both at the same time, because we don't want to deal with the Corpse Carrier on the second phase of the fight. Once Taraka hits 200,000 HP, he's going to move over and summon the Bloated Monstrosity. We don't really want to worry about him. What you do want to do is stand north of Tarakit and use a Shock or Horror ability with a Combust and then a Shock or Horror ability to push him over and get that double damage. The reason we do that is because this is where the next Rift is going to spawn. Here you're just going to want to get another Sunshine up once it's off cooldown and use an Adrenaline Potion. Here the portal spawns, and again we can just use our area of effect abilities while DPSing Tarakit. Throughout this phase, just keep your Mage Prayer on until he puts his Def Swiftness up. Once he's below 150,000 HP, he's going to put his Def Swiftness up, Range Prayer, and his first attack will be a Ghost Wave, so walk through him. He will do one basic attack, and then he's going to do another Ghost Wave, so again walk through him to avoid the damage from that. Continue DPSing Tarakit and make sure of course the Rift is dead. At this point of the fight you can probably just continue DPSing Tarakit. Another Rift may spawn. As you can see, here's another Rift, but you don't have to worry too much as Tarakit will be dead in a couple seconds. If Tarakit's HP is a little higher than what it was in this video, then just make sure that the Rift dies before it times out. If you want to, you can keep Dark Form on for the rest of the dungeon, but remember that it does use a lot more prayer points. For these Undead Witches, I would recommend you keep your Mage Prayer on, and then you can Soul Split once they're dead, as they do deal quite a bit of damage. Once you pass those undead enemies, put your Soul's Amulet back on so that you can have your increased damage and healing against the rest of the targets. For this part, just kill the Calgarian Demon, and then you can move up the stairs and Bladed Dive through the wall for a little shortcut, Power Burst of Acceleration, and just surge all the way down. For this part you need to kill 4 Necromancers. There's going to be one in 4 different spots, so here is the first one behind this bush. So just use some single target spells, kill that Necromancer, and then surge down towards the second one. Once this Necromancer is dead, the gate will open, and you can Bladed Dive through the corner of the wall. The third Necromancer is just standing in the middle of the walkway, and kill him, and then move down towards the last one guarding this gate. If you are next to the Necromancer, once it's dead, you can just Bladed Dive through this wall to the jump spot. Once you've jumped over the ledge, just surge all the way down to this gate with these crabs, and you're just going to want to let them group up and then use your area of effect abilities. I recommend using a Tsunami here, as these enemies do have quite high HP and there are quite a lot of them. Once these crabs are dead and the gate is open, you can equip your Salve Amulet again, because there are 2 undead skeletons in the next room. Once you've killed both the skeletons and moved down towards the next set of enemies, I'd recommend surging down and then standing behind the Zealots, and that way some of the enemies will be trapped behind them and won't be able to attack you, specifically the warped skeletons, as they do deal high amounts of damage. I'd recommend, if there are warped skeletons in melee distance of you, that you put your Mage Prayer on, as they can hurt quite a bit. In this video you'll see one of the skeletons came over a little bit late. And so we're just going to use some single target abilities and finish him off. Unfortunately here I did aggro a mini-boss. If that happens, just anticipate so that they can't stun you, and then just continue DPSing the enemies. Group up the warp skeletons with these scouts, and that way you can just use a detonate and your dragon breath to clear them all out. Once they are dead, just tally out of the dungeon and reload your preset to get ready for the ambassador fight. Just like all the other boss fights, you're going to want to activate your Scrimshaw and put your Dark Form prayer on. You're going to start the ambassador fight with Mage prayer on, activate devotion as you walk into the arena, use a corruption blast and then sunshine. As the mage hit hits you, you want to activate range prayer and then continue with your sunshine rotation. Use an adrenaline potion and get your wild magic asphyxiate off. And once you receive the smoke, step a step to the side of your sunshine, activate mage prayer for the mage hit, let the smoke drop, and then move towards your other side of your sunshine. Here the portal is going to spawn. I'd recommend finishing your sunshine first, so use another asphyxiate, mage prayer for the mage hit, and then use a stun on the portal to block the damage. If you don't stun the portal, you will take an 8k hit, so make sure your health is high. You're then going to get another smoke, use another detonate, and then when you finish dropping that smoke, you can get a resonance off for the mage hit. Then you're going to get 2 attacks from the boss, and then he's going to phase into the spinner's phase. What you want to do is place Soul Split on and step south of the boss. You then want to use a Combust and a Pushback ability. I'd recommend the Threshold one, and then use a Corruption Blast and a couple basics. Move over to the second spinner, use a Wild Magic and a Asphyxiate. Once he's dead, use another Combust on the next spinner and then push the spinner back for the double damage, and then use a Corruption Blast again. So for every second spinner you want to be doing the Combust, Pushback, Corruption Blast. Yeah, I G-Staff that and then into a Wild Magic. Again, Combust is off cooldown, so use that, push the spinner back for double damage, and then Corruption Blast and finish off the spinner. Do not worry about the last one. What you want to do is get ready to attack Ambassador, put your Planted Feet switch on, throw a Vulnerability Bomb, and you want to stun as the spinner is about to enter Ambassador. Then you want to use a Sonic Wave, Dragon Breath, Corruption Blast, and then Res for the typeless damage. If you miss that Res, it will be a 8k hit, so try and time that like I have there. If you follow my rotation at the exact same time, then you won't take any damage from that. You then want to move to the side of your sunshine like we did in the first phase to drop the smoke, and then move back over to the other side once it's on the floor. Mage hit will follow, and then you just want to keep DPSing. For anyone who wants to know, every 6th attack will be a mage hit, and it will be a melee hit if you're in melee distance. Black hole will spawn, finish off your sunshine, and then turn around and stun it to avoid taking damage. Once you get Ambassador 550,000 HP, that will be the phase completed, and you won't get another spinner's phase. Drop your next smoke, and then just move out of it and continue DPSing Ambassador, build up to full, and get another sunshine off. Use an adrenaline potion inside this sunshine, and just get your Wild Magic Asphyxiate off. The next phase point is 400k HP. Once you get there, you will get a full heal from Seiryu, so don't eat up too much. Make sure you prayer flick for the mage hit each time. And then, after you've been healed, Seiryu will get rid of all the crabs and smoke in the arena as well. Now what you want to do is just continue DPSing Ambassador, and get ready to place another sunshine. Here you want to walk into melee distance of Ambassador so that you can block off the smoke nice and easily, and you want to have your sunshine under Ambassador so that when you walk around him to block the smoke, you can still be in your sunshine. So throughout this fight, the hands around the arena are going to slap, and then it's going to send smoke towards Ambassador. You need to stand between that hand and Ambassador to block Ambassador from being healed. If the smoke is black, that means you're doing it correctly. Once you get into this phase, you want to make sure that you're above 50% adrenaline, so that when he calls out your name, you can devotion and place Mage Prayer on, like so in the video. Once that mage hit is done, it's going to do like 6 or 8 mage hits, You want to make sure that you put your range prayer on after it's done, not before it's done, otherwise you will get one hit. Continue DPSing Ambassador and make sure you stay above 50% adrenaline, as he will do another mage hit soon enough. For the next mage hit, you want to debilitate and reflect with mage prayer on. So he says your name, you want to put mage prayer on, debilitate and reflect to reduce the incoming damage. Once he's done with that mage attack, get another sunshine off. And then use an adrenaline potion. Build up to 50%, use a wild magic, and then another asphyxiate. If you get another mage spec, then just devotion and mage prayer again. So here it is, mage spec. So I'm going to activate mage prayer and use devotion. Keep DPSing Ambassador down until he's dead, and that'll pretty much be the end of the fight. If you ever get another mage spec, again just debilitate, reflect, and just cycle through devotion and debilitating and reflecting, and you'll be fine. That is going to be the end of my full mage guide to Elite Dungeons 3. I hope this was able to help anyone out who is looking to learn or get better at Elite Dungeons 3. If you guys have any feedback, please leave it down in the comments section. It is greatly appreciated. And if you want to check out my stream, you can have a look at that down in the description as well. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching.